Hello, Bill. Hello. Can you all hear me? Hello. Hello, Bill. I want to welcome you. Um, we are expecting about seven older persons to join the class. I believe you can hear me all right. Can you hear me? Can you
Yes.
hear me all right? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. I'm delighted to welcome you to the class today. We are expecting about seven other people who registered also to join the class, but we are going to start anyways and have them meet us where they can when they eventually join. So the focus of this masterclass is to help prepare you for superior performance. So the idea is outperforming the industry. And we understand clearly that your results will always be limited to the quality of your decisions. And your decisions will always depend on your exposure, So the more your exposure is deepened and widened, the better quality of decisions you can make. Last Tuesday, I had the chance of discussing the Southwest case study to quite a number of entrepreneurs and business leaders who registered. And we had quite a time discussing the Southwest case because Southwest Airline is one that's a Dallas-based airline in your country, which has steadily, consistently outperformed the industry, for example, in good and in bad times. Even after the 9/11 attack, um, the very next day, the stock price of Southwest went up, even when others are still struggling. So it is a company that we have all admired. And we had a chance of discussing the reason why they remain profitable and are likely to remain profitable in the coming years, and the reason why it is even difficult for competitors to just copy the strategy because it seems simple. Have one fleet of airline, have only a single class, don't serve meals, all right? Use secondary airport. If you do that, everything is supposed to be fine. But how come any other person could do that, any other airline could do that and not have the same results? So we had quite a time discussing that. So today, this is a totally different animal that we're going to do here today. We have a number of models to consider. And the idea, like I said, is focused on superior performance. And like I said, superior performance can never be a given. It has to be earned. It's not something that happens just because you have a good mission in heart, or you are focused on solving some of the world's biggest problems. As good as solving the world's biggest problems might be, you still need to be able to uh, get to use the right approach and to function within the right timing. If that is guaranteed, then superior performance can happen. So my hope today is that we can consider some frameworks that can help you in making your decisions, in looking at the future, in looking at your industry, in determining how to respond. That will help you understand competitors, how they move, and how you need to respond. But these are my expectations, all right? I'm also hoping that I'm going to be able to learn quite a lot from you today because this is not going to be a one-way traffic. It's actually going to be a conversation between all of us. So while we're waiting for other people to join us, I will take the liberty to ask you what your expectations for this session might be. That way, it makes it a little easier for me to function within the framework of what your expectations could be. So, Bill.
Well, we're looking at rebranding the 6 minute webinar into a program of focused on gaining clarity, so that because obviously with clarity, people can reach superior performance or peak performance. And we're going to use the same format and everything we've developed because the model is so amazing. But we want to take it into corporate teams for clarity on projects and corporate teams. So I'm just here to learn what I can.
I like that. This could have been a lot more valuable to you if at least one of your team members were part of the class. That's where you can learn together. Don't you think so?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said you could have got more value out of this session if you had at least one of your team members also join the class. That's where you can learn together, and we would have had a much more enriching conversation. Is any of them available to join the class right now? I can off the bat give you the chance to bring the person on.
Yeah, no, no, Don is buried in a purchase of a new home that went the wrong way. So he has bigger fish to fry. Yeah.
I get it. Okay, talking about 6 minutes, 6 minutes. Currently, do you have paying clients at the moment?
Paying clients?
Yes.
Do we have paying clients? Yeah, well, in our proof of concept, we've been we started just about a year ago, and we came up with it and started working it, developing it. In the beginning of the year, in January, we started doing a boot camp once a month, taking people through the 6-minute webinar. And so, excuse me, I don't have the exact numbers, but we have about 30 people that have joined a program of ours for a year, a VIP program, working with them where they can come to any of our events. But that's it. We've just been working on the structure, Brian.
I get it. Okay. So we are going to get this, we're going to get this started. I want to bring on the first slide. And because my team had asked me to go ahead. So I'm going to bring on the first slide. We're going to be having quite a number of discussions today, like I said, quite a number of them. And we are just going to start here. So if you bear with me one moment, I need to get the first slide on,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can take it on from there. All right, welcome everybody once again. Hi, Spencer. Good to have you here. Hello, Spencer. Can you hear me? Hello. If you can hear me, maybe it's possible that you. Okay, Spencer is not even in the room yet. Okay, let me just get him in and then we can move very quickly. Hello, Spencer. Hi, Spencer. Can you hear me? Hello, Spencer. Can you hear me now? Spencer, confirm that you can hear all right. Hello. All right, Bill, are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we have some older person join the room, but I'm wondering if he can hear me all right. Spencer, can you hear me? Hopefully Spencer can hear me, otherwise you can get it sorted. So, okay, so we just get to start moving. We are considering, this class is called Advanced Business Growth Masterclass. And the idea is to look at how businesses can grow, really. Like I have already stated, and which is very clear to every one of us here, business growth is a result all by itself. It just doesn't happen. It's always the result of the decisions we make. In other words, if we make the decisions, the right decisions, in science class, that's what you call dependent variable. In other words, it depends on how we apply certain principles. If we apply certain principles correctly, we'll have the right results. So our thing here today is to start by looking at the things that drive business growth. One of the fundamental things I wanted to emphasize is that business growth is an outcome. That it is your wish doesn't mean it will happen. It only happens because you made the right set of choice. So that stated, we can move very quickly. Spencer, can you hear me? Okay.
Hello, Doc. So, yes, I can hear you.
Perfect, Spencer. It's good to have you join us all the way from Ghana. All right, so Spencer, tell us, what are your expectations for today's class?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So yes, I am here today to learn about new business strategies and ways of helping to transform our businesses in a way that can bring us new sales and grow the business.
Absolutely. So it's already clear to you that that's all you've stated is these are desirable objectives. And that's only possible if you are able to make the right choices, and I must say also consistently. And that's what I hope that we can take away from this class today. So the first thing we're considering is the drivers of business growth. How does a business actually grow? What are the things that actually drive business growth? Business growth doesn't just happen by itself. So we have identified certain drivers, as you can see on your slide. I believe you can all see my screen, my slide very well. So the first thing that you have, perfect. The first thing you have is a business philosophy. And then you have the business approach. And then you have your business model. And then you have your marketing. And you have your capital. Then your relationships, your channels, and then your product and services. These are the drivers of business growth. And it is how the choices you make regarding these drivers that will determine the outcome you can have. And if you make lousy decisions regarding capital, because maybe you don't understand what capital is, or you make lousy decisions concerning your business model, you are going to have the wrong results, even if you're doing all of the other things correctly. You see, so this has to be holistic, this has to be consistent, and this is something that we have to keep improving on. Okay? Now, if you have a question, I will expect you to put it in the chat box. That way we can make sure that we are moving On this, we're on the same page. Okay. Now, talking about business philosophy. Now, one clear thing we understand is that every successful business is committed to a cause. That is absolutely correct. Every successful business is committed to a cause beyond making money. And the enterprise, with focus on how to get more pounds sterling into the bank, is doomed for failure. It's only a matter of time. I love the idea of Peter Drucker when he said there are only two duties of the enterprise. And he said it is innovation and marketing. Now, that's quite an inspiring thought. He said there are only two duties of the enterprise, and they are innovation and marketing. Innovation deals with finding new approaches to solving problems or creating new products for solving problems, but it's all about bringing about something new, something different. All right? Then he said the other very important, the other major responsibility of the enterprise is marketing. And marketing is not an effort to convince people to buy into your solution. You see, the first thing that is so important that we begin to take seriously is that our purpose in the marketplace is to serve people, is to extend and expand freedoms. It is to respond to the pains that people go through, pains that results from exclusion, or pains that result from obstacles, or pains that result from certain kinds of frustrating experiences in using certain products and services or platforms. So the job of the effective entrepreneur or effective manager, as the case could be, is to identify these obstacles, identify these gaps, identify these loopholes that create pain, and fill them, take care of them. Any business, any enterprise that is built on that philosophy will rule the world. That is the first thing you want to understand about being effective. Your business philosophy. Why are you in business? If all the money you ever needed in the world were handed down to you, what would you rather be doing? Will you still be in business? Will you still be in access to webinar, BO? All right. So every successful business is committed to a cause beyond making money. Now, every business philosophy is a compelling reason behind the venture. That's a compelling reason behind the venture. All right. Your business, so what we say a compelling reason, I already explained that. All right. You are driven, Bill, by the fact that you realize leaders are unable sometimes, or it requires clear and effective communication to lead, clear and effective communication to sell, all right, to advocate for change, all right. You understand that, and you've created a system to help entrepreneurs and politicians and leaders of all categories learn how to communicate in short, simple way with clarity, because life demands clarity. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. So now that has to be a compelling reason. This compelling reason is going to be the power behind innovation, behind creativity. Many people use the wrong approach. They are trying to find new ways of solving problems because people can give them more money. You're getting it upside down and you're making a terrible, irredeemable mistake. You want to come from love. You want to come from the perspective of helping to move the world forward with a profit model. Now, these are two different things. Somebody is focused on getting his product out and charging money on the product or service in order to get money. Somebody is looking at bringing solutions and solving problems with a profit model, because you need the profit to continue to remain in business. So you see, the perspective is different. It was Bruce Burton, the celebrated, probably not well known today, American writer, that once said, some business people have purchased newspaper houses with the intent of making all the money they can. He said, but what they do, and controlling society, he said. But Bruce Burton said, what they don't understand is that the society has a kind of sixth sense. And people know when words ring true. How true? He said, people know when words ring true. Somehow the world has a way of relating with your true intentions beyond the things you are saying. You see, if your intention is not clear, it's not coming from pure love for the world, love for people, all right? Love for the country. This is the power that moves the world forward. And if your intention is not clear from that perspective, you realize that the market will somehow resent you without you even knowing about it. This is the reason why a company could do everything right and still can explain why the sales are always falling behind expectation. And that can change. It's possible to change that by realizing that the purpose of business is not necessarily to make all the money. That's not the reason. Money is a result, is an appreciation, and you charge that money because you want to remain in business. I wish you can search for one of my articles. It's called Fake Entrepreneur. It's been published by several, I can't even count it, in several newspapers and magazine sites around the world. If you would just search Fake Entrepreneur by Dr. Brian Rubin, one of those sites will pop it up. People have taken it, put it on their blogs, newspapers around the world, in the UK, in Africa, and America, they've all put it, and people are reading it. So I wanted to search for Fake Entrepreneur by Dr. Brian, and it's going to help a great deal in bringing some more clarity regarding philosophy. I once read from a book years ago, written by Robert Kiyosaki, and he talked about the time when he met with his mentor, and he was wearing a fake Rolex watch. You might have read the story yourself. The mentor took the fake, told him to remove the fake Rolex watch and actually smashed it. And that was way too difficult for Mr. Roberts. So he asked him, why would I do that? He said, because it's only fake people that we are fake. You want people, he said, to believe that you're successful, but deep within you, you think you are not. Oh, but I see that's a problem. It's like that unconscious reality in your heart is going to go out to send the wrong signals to people about you and all the things you do. So intention is important. Philosophy is important. The real intent you have for which you are in business is important. And you're going to make sure that you get this right from the start. So as we speak right now, ask yourself, why am I in business? Why did I start? Question yourself and write your answers, and don't try to deceive yourself. Don't say I'm in business because I love America. I'm in business because I love Ghana. That's fine. Are you sure? So, and it's okay if that be your intention. But I'm just saying, examine your true intents and fine-tune it where it needs to be fine-tuned. And you'll be amazed at the results. Are you following me?
Yes.
Can you all hear me? Bill, are you there? Can you all hear me? Spencer, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, your business, your philosophy is what gives life to your business. Why? Because it's a philosophy that drives everything you really do. That is what gives you perspective. Your business philosophy is the controlling power of innovation and creativity. I already explained that. You see, If your philosophy is wrong, you'll be short-sighted because opportunities will come and you miss it. You miss opportunities, for instance. When opportunities come, for instance, you won't realize how to take advantage of opportunities. And that's because you are short-sighted. You are focused on the wrong thing, and you want to make sure that that's not your experience. So business philosophy is the first driver of business growth, especially in difficult times. Okay, so here is something, a pyramid from Toyota. The way they think about their approach to business. So you see that at the bottom of the pyramid, you have the philosophy. It's right there. And the philosophy is long-term thinking. What is your philosophy? And then, of course, they have a process. They have people and partners. They have, problem solving. Their approach to that. But you see, at the bottom of the Toyota system is their philosophy, long-term thinking. All right. So that tells you the importance of philosophy, and that justifies the truth that every successful business, every successful enterprise has a compelling philosophy. That compelling philosophy is also what inspires your people. That's what connects you with partners. When people come in contact with you and hear about your business, the philosophy is what endears them to you. So you're going to want to make sure that you work on that, and it has to be clearly stated. And a philosophy that is not communicated is a philosophy that does not exist. Is there any question at the moment?
No.
Perfect. So let's look at the next very important thing, your business approach. Now, approach is what we call strategy. Many times when I am leading a conversation in a boardroom or a seminar, you have business leaders, and I usually will ask them what is strategy, and I get quite a number of answers, quite interesting answers. They will tell me strategies are long-term planning. Well, strategy should be long-term. The strategy is not a long-term planning. Some people say our strategy is to make sure that we are making good products. Well, that's a good decision. That's not what strategy is. So your strategy is your distinctive or unique approach to competition and the competitive advantages on which that approach will be based. That's what strategy is. Strategy is your approach to competition. That approach has to be unique, otherwise it's not a strategy. It has to be unique. The uniqueness is not based on one action. It's always a matter of different set of choices, not random choices, different set of choices, clear choices that fit together and reinforce one another, giving you a system that will be very difficult to be imitated. It's difficult to imitate or copy because it is a careful set of choices, and they fit in one to another and cut across your culture, your structure, and several other things. That's what strategy is. So strategy is a design of a sustainable position for a business in its competitive environment. Strategy reflects management's understanding of the company's assets and position, as well as the external forces it faces. So in strategy, you talk about the external environment, the industry structure, and then you talk about the position of the business within that industry. All right? You need to understand the industry, what it looks like, and then define a solution, a position for your company. All right? So I said strategy reflects the management's understanding of the firm's assets, The assets include knowledge, it includes human resources, it includes mention, it includes all manner of things. And position. Is it a low-cost company? Is it a premium brand? What is our position? As well as the external forces it faces. Thirdly, at the basic level, strategy is about making quality decisions and executing well on those decisions. Two very important things, but one important thing actually, decision, because strategy is clearly about choices. It's clearly about making decisions. So it's about making quality decisions and executing well on those decisions. That's what strategy is. That's what your approach is. Now, if you don't understand this, how can you effectively apply what you don't understand? And to say the least, listen, I have had the chance of training thousands of top level management on the subject of strategy around the world. We've done that. And I can tell you firsthand that to my surprise, irrespective of the huge popularity that the subject of strategy enjoys, strategy is grossly misunderstood by executives. They mistake it for all manner of things. You have all manner of confusion around it. Strategy is confused with business model, is confused with tactics. People can't draw the line of the difference. If you don't understand the difference, how can you make high quality decisions? So at the basic level, strategy is about making quality decisions and executing well on those decisions. You have organizations that are in strategic denial. You have those that dress up what they that is strategic pretension. They dress up what they have and call it strategies. All right, those ones we say in the spectrum of strategic thinking, I define such organizations as being in strategic pretension. All right. And you have those who have no idea at all what you're talking about. They are lost in the maze. Lost in the maze. Are you all following me? Okay. Are you all
Yes,
following me?
very good. Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Is this helping you? Is this helping you?
It's providing a lot of clarity. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
It's giving me a greater depth of clarity.
That's the purpose of the class. I love that. All right, now strategy is about understanding markets and technology evolution. Oh, I love this. And transformation, as well as the ability to execute against the plans. Two important things you want to understand in your business approach is how is the market evolving? It was a Cisco vice president years ago that said today, he said, we are competing not against other companies, but against market transition because the environment is changing at a pace faster than you can even imagine. I mean, you spend years researching and developing something only for the environment to overtake it in just a few months. How do you function in such a time when change has become so rampant? How do you function? But, well, it begins by, first of all, being thoroughly grounded in the subject of strategy. That gives you the basis of even being able to respond at all. That's what it means. So it means we rethink everything about business and our approach. All right. The world of 1990s and 1970s is gone. And we had better wake up to that reality. We better wake up to it. Now, I think one of my most latest efforts is trying to bring some clarity about the balance scorecard, which is used by companies around the world. But there are actually a lot of limitations within the balance scorecard. A wonderful tool developed by a respected management and strategy consultant. They will have to rethink certain things in our day. Now, strategy is about understanding market and technology evolution and transformation, as well as the ability to execute against the plan. So you understand how is the market evolving, how is technology evolving. Because you can be effective in strategy if you are not also functioning with the best practices, or in other words, the latest management thinking and technology. You need to have that. So if you don't understand technology evolution and how it's changing everything, you can't execute your plans effectively. So now you have to understand strategy. It is the next major driver of business growth, especially in times like this. So we talked about your business philosophy and we have emphasized that. And now we're talking about your approach, which is what strategy is. If you have a question, please do not hesitate to let me know. So what is the purpose of strategy? Well, that's simple. The purpose of strategy is to create a competitive advantage for a superior performance. Now, if you want to remain among the packs, all right, you don't even need to be in this class. I mean, you just look at how whichever industry is doing well, you jump in there and have fun while it's working. And while when it gets down, your money, you can lose your money, and that's okay. We are thinking about outperforming the industry. That's the purpose. That's our focus. How can I outperform the industry? All right? That's our focus. In other words, have a remarkable advantage over the competition that gives me the chance, the space to be all I can be in the marketplace. That's the purpose of strategy, to create a competitive advantage for a superior performance. Now, competitive advantage is not what a firm is particularly good at. Very important, because we have lots of divergent ideas about strategy, about competitive advantage and strategy. All right. So sometimes we can confuse that what you call core competence, and core competence is important. Core competence can help you create a competitive advantage. But core competence is not by itself the competitive advantage that you seek. It is what you are able to do with your core competence that will give you advantage. Is that very clear to you? Now, superior performance means compared to your rivals, you operate at a lower cost, command premium price, or you do both. Very important. That you have a superior performance means compared to your rivals, you are operating at a lower cost, or you are commanding a premium price, or you can do both. Well, why do you want to operate at a lower cost? That's the reason Southwest has had a 44 consecutive years of profitability, because they are able to keep their cost of operations very low, far lower than any other airline in the United States. So how can you command premium price? Well, that's the reason Hilton and Sheraton and the rest of them have remained what they are in the hotel industry, by looking for a segment of the population that wants something beyond the basic. That's why you still wear a Rolex wristwatch today. That's why you consider buying a Rolls Royce. There are a lot of other good cars you can get. Why do you want to have a Rolls Royce? All right, that's called premium price. And what it can do for you, so what it means is that compared with others, you are operating at a lower cost, or you are commanding a premium price, or you are doing both. Now it's always better to do both. Now, of course, our main focus, say, if you attend our strategy masterclass in Nigeria, strategy masterclass is just a day and a half program with limited to 6 executives. One is coming up very soon, and that goes for $2,000. But in London, it's $5,000. In Dubai, it's $5,000. But the thing is, that is where we give a lot of attention, first of all, at the fundamentals of strategy. And then we begin to deal with a lot of other issues. What uniqueness mean in strategic terms, for example. When I say you need to be unique, some will think, okay, I need to create a product that looks different from that of other people. Well, you should create a product that looks different from that of other people. But uniqueness in the sense of strategy is not about one thing. It's not about one thing. It's actually about the configuration of your value chain, all right, in a way that it gives you a uniqueness that is impossible or at least very difficult to copy. And there is no, we can't go into details of that, but I'm hoping that this inspires your interest to do a little more study on the subject of strategy. Also, you also want to consider some of our classes that are specific, like the Advanced Strategic Thinking Workshop, which it's going to be holding very soon, virtually also, so you can consider being in that class too. Now, competitive advantage is relative only to the industry in consideration. In other words, Pfizer cannot have a competitive advantage over Toyota, all right? Apple cannot have a competitive advantage over Facebook, all right? Except, of course, in certain areas, like where you have the Apple Pay and the Facebook Pay, see, in their corporate strategy. But competitive advantage, at the basic level is relative only to the industry in consideration. Is that very clear, or somebody has a question? Because I want us to talk about business models. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Okay, perfect. Let's move forward. Now let's talk about your business model, which is the next key driver for business growth. Now, you want to remember something George Box said. Remember that role models are wrong. All models, George E.P. Box said, all models are wrong. The practical question he said is how wrong they do have to be not to be useful. What does he mean by that? He meant to say that business models are the results of thoughts, thinkings of human beings who have limited information, who live at certain times. See, the man who lived in 1921 and had a business model can only frame that model based on the information and knowledge that is available at his time. Now, it would have been inconceivable in 1950 for us to be having a session like this. You would have had to fly to London, or I have to fly to San Francisco, where Bill is, all right, for us to sit together like this. But we are able to do it today because of a different model. So business model is something you take extremely seriously if you are looking at, what you call geometric growth. You want to grow geometrically, not struggling. You want to make a quantum leap. You want to have a kind of results that compel people to ask you, how are you doing it? You want to take a look at the business model. Now, Prof. David Tse said, get the business model wrong, and there is actually almost no chance of success. Think about it. He said, get the business model wrong, and there will be actually almost no chance of success if you get it wrong. But how can you get the business model wrong? Well, to start with, if you are using a model that the environment has already overtaken, you already failed before you started. All right? So that's something important. And we can overemphasize the importance of business model. Let me just give you some numbers. All right? That will help you understand how important business model can be. Now, look at it. How many, you know about the Google AdWords, don't you? You know Google AdWords? What they are?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about Google AdWords?
Yeah.
Perfect. I heard one voice. Spencer, you know about Google AdWords, don't you? Spencer, are you still here? Okay. Maybe his mic is muted or something. But Google AdWords, for example, in October 23, 2020, Oh, the birth of the first ever self-serve online advertising platform called the Google Ads. Now, by the end of the first year, Google Ads had returned over $70 million, 70 million by the end of the first year. Now, Google made $24.1 billion revenue from quarter three of 2018 from advertising. Why? Because it was a different model. The model that had been before then, all you needed, you want to get an advert and you have to contact the company, the New York Times or the Guardian or whatever, whichever one, you get to them, and then they will determine how and where to place the ad. It's under their control. They cannot give you information about the number of impressions your ad has made, and those that look at it, there was no feedback mechanism. It was rigid, company controlled, and you pay per placement. Google created a new model that was pay per click or even pay per impression. And then it was flexible, it was self-service, and it had, most importantly, a feedback mechanism. This made tremendous difference and gave Google, like I said, in the first year, $70 million. That's the power of business model. Think about it. Now, business model is a conceptual logic of how a business creates, delivers, and captures economic value from customers. Let me get a bit of your thoughts on this. Let me start with Spencer. All right, Spencer, what could you consider to be the difference between a business model and strategy? Spencer, can you hear me? Hello. All right, Bill. Okay, it's like he's coming on. Oh, no. I ain't got him. So, Bill, you can talk to me. What would you say is a difference between strategy and business model?
Model is the the foundation that helps you deliver your strategy.
Okay, that sounds great. Model is a foundation. I said that it seems a bit compound. The foundation that enable you to deliver your strategy. Can you simplify it a bit?
Well, the strategy the strategy needs to be supported by an infrastructure that will keep it moving forward. So the model has to be able to support whatever you're choosing as a strategy, even if it's a short-term one.
Okay, thank you. But I'm not really fully satisfied. Though with their answer. And the reason is because the fundamental thing I want you to understand about strategy is that it's about choice. Don't ever forget, strategy is about choice on how to be unique. All right. Now, the model is the logic, the conceptual logic.
Right.
Of how you create, deliver, and capture economic value. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the choice of that model, whichever model, the choice of it is what you call strategy.
Right.
Perfect. Now, the business model is your company's answer to the question of how to make money in its chosen field. Now, when we say make money, that's the result. All right. So it's a how to. The how to there deals with approach. How to is the approach. All right. Now, if you get your how to right, you will get money as a result. So money is always a result, not the focus. All right. So it's a to answer the question of how to make money in your chosen business. It describes as a system how the pieces of a business fit together. Okay, now that's what a business model is. And that's
I
one of
see.
the
Okay.
yeah, now that's one of the key drivers of business growth. Okay, so when you come into an industry, there's already a model. People are using it. All right, people are using it. So there's a model already. What are you going to do? Well, one of the ways to outpace the competition is through what you call business model innovation. That means you want to recreate the business model. That way, you can either lower your cost or you have a premium price advantage. Now, actually, there was a study done by the IBM Global CEO study in 2006, and this was an CEOs from several organizations around the world, and IBM did this study. All right. Now, in response to question about the benefits or importance of business model, the CEOs responded. They indicated a lot of benefits they get from business model. Some of them include cost reduction. All right. The other one,
Mhm.
and I can give you an example. You know about IKEA, the Swedish furniture maker that sells good furniture at a lower rate. Yeah. And but the thing is, from the start, IKEA's focus was on how to deliver good furniture at a lower rate. Now, to do that, they needed a business model reengineering because their approach is completely different from that of the standard um, furniture maker. You have to buy that furniture in a box, right? So by having those furnitures in boxes, they save a lot of space, money on space. All right, and most of what you have is self-serve. Nobody's going to be taking you around and walking you through to help you make a choice. And all of that helps them keep the cost low. But from the day one, from the get-go, the focus was on furniture for um, the low income category segment. All right, so business model innovation can help you reduce your cost of operation. And all you just need to do is to ask yourself, question, is there no other way of solving this problem? Don't follow industry standard. All right. I think part of the models we consider today will show you how to actually, I think we'll get a bit into how to manipulate the drivers of industry profitability in your advantage. I'm hoping that we can look at that later. All right. Now, one of the things benefits of business model innovation is strategic flexibility. It gives you flexibility. All right. It gives you the chance to pursue a new approach. All right. For example, if every magazine, for example, are in print, and you decide to have your own magazine online 100%, well, that could give you flexibility to serve a new markets. All right. Can serve a new market. Okay. Now look at focus and specialization. And then it also helps you rapidly exploit new markets and product opportunities. Because you see, your model, now think about it, the Toyota Camry 2020 model is quite different from the 2018 model in terms of performance, in terms of speed, in terms of balance, right? And what the 2020 model can do, the 2010 model cannot do. Of course, you get the basic thing. For example, every phone should be able to make a call, but that doesn't compare the iPhone, for example, to the Nokia 3310 of years ago. It's still a phone; it can still make call, but it's fundamentally different because of innovation. But in that case, that's product innovation, not business model. Now, business model innovation can also help you share or reduce risk and capital. For example, Liam Fong that is well known, actually, they don't even have a sewing machine, or because they use a different model. It is more appropriate to see that they manage the into supply chain management than into textile. But they are a textile company too. See, that's what business model innovation can do. It helps you reduce risk and share of capital. Now, it can help you move from fixed cost to variable cost. Business model innovation can help you do all that. And we have a whole session on business model innovation. Let's move forward. So this is a chart that gives us some idea, and it's based on operating. What you see is based on operating margin over 5 years as compared to competitive peers. So you see underperformance, focus, and outperformance focus. See, underperformance focus on markets, products, innovation, operations, and but you see, outperformance in this diagram, this chart you're looking at here, you see their level of commitment to business model innovation. You see the level of commitment very high. All right. You see the difference. So outperformers in every industry take business model innovation versus. I mean, think about it. Apple market capitalization is over $1 trillion. Think about it. How does all of this stuff start? Steve Jobs resigned as a vice president of a bank and decided to start a bookstore online. That's a different business model. So these things are things that happen every day. Bill, your model is unique too. You're quite innovative with that. All right. So I'm hoping that all of the other pieces can fit together to really give you a superior position in the markets. All right. Let's talk about the next driver. That is your marketing. All right. Now, in a study, the top 10 managers, a study, all right, you see from How to Make Team Work or by Harvard Business Review. All right. In this study, the top 10 managers of 125 companies around the world were asked individually to identify their company's 5 most critical objectives. The minimum number for each company was supposed to be 5 critical objectives, all right? 125 companies, their top 10 managers. And the maximum should be 50. Now, here's what happened. 5 minimum, 50 maximum, all right? Now, the managers of the 40 most profitable companies, so we're considering your marketing, really, it's your marketing we're considering here. Now, the managers of the 40 most profitable companies agreed on between 6 to 12 critical objectives. Now, the worst companies in that study, their managers agreed on the range between 26 and 43 critical objectives. Think about it. The minimum was supposed to be 5. The maximum was supposed to be 50, right? Now, the outperformers, the 40 most profitable companies, their managers agreed on 6 to 12 most critical objectives. For the worst 40 customers and companies, their managers agreed between 26 and 43 critical goals. They felt they were still in range because after all, the maximum should be 50. Now look at it. Do you know what that means? It means that the leaders of the poor performers had no shared strategic focus, while the opposite was the case with the successful firms. In other words, there is no alignment between the organizational strategy and the functional units. Now, how does it affect, what is the implication of that? If in your marketing, there is no alignment, because remember, we're talking about your marketing as a critical driver for growth. If there is no alignment between your marketing and your overall strategy, all right, you have a problem. Your marketing objectives, the focus of the marketing should be in alignment with the focus of the organization. The functional unit has to be in harmony with the organization, with one another. Otherwise, there will be division that is not pronounced. But division happens because IT is focused on a different objective, and marketing is focused on a different objective, and HR is focused on a different objective. Now, whatever and however the model you use for your HR, whatever model it is, whatever model you use for your marketing, there has to be clear objectives. Whether you are a company of 10 people or 1,000 or 200,000, the different functional unit has to have objectives, and they should be clearly defined. Now, not many people, small businesses, even think about it that way because they are focused on surviving. Now, it's okay to survive, but you have to strike a balance between your survival and your sustenance. And if you don't get to have the template, the mindset for superior performance, for geometric growth, you need the mindset and the character, the attitude that makes that possible. And one of them is clarity about the different functions, whether you are the person carrying out those functions all by yourself or you have other people helping you. Is this very clear to you? Okay, I hope that's clear. We're moving forward to your assets. So let's talk about your assets now. Now, this helps you understand what I mean by assets. Because when I think about assets, I'm not just thinking about your computers and your machines and maybe your vehicle. I'm looking beyond that. What about human beings? What about your relationships with distributors, with facing organizations, with all manner of relationships? What about that? What about knowledge? What about articles you've written? What about technology you've patented? All right. What about all you've learned? What about those things? What about the policies you've developed in your organization? All of them are what you call knowledge assets, and they are part of your assets. How do you relate with them? What are your goals regarding acquiring knowledge, regarding training, regarding knowledge development of you and those that work with you? What is your policy regarding relationship? Do you have a policy regarding relationship? You've got to have a policy regarding relationship. There has to be a clearly defined policy about your relationship. What about your reputation? What do you stand for? Is it clear or is it confusing? Is your attitude, your character and disposition watering down what you're supposed to represent? Because that's an asset. Why was iPhone successful? Because it's iPhone? No, not because it's iPhone. The brand had a role to play there. The quality of the phone had a role to play there. The relationship had a role to play there. All of these important assets, you have to have a clear policy regarding them. What about your physical assets? How do you treat them? Which ones are critical? Which ones are not? In Nucor, a steel company, they placed priority emphasis on their efficient running of their plants, because the efficiency was one of the things that gave them a clear advantage over the competition. So managers are rewarded for efficiency. Guess what? One of the managers in a particular year came off for his award because he's got the most efficient plant for that year. But instead of a smile and an award, he got a sack later, because the manager has also compromised the plant maintenance because he wanted to win an award. So I ask you, what is your policy regarding your assets? Knowledge, for example. For example, you've invested in this training, paid $100. Actually, it's supposed to be, this is a training that will charge $4,000. Now you paid $100 to come in to learn the skill. This is wonderful, but it has to be ongoing. Many people in difficult times rather want to take a step back because they feel in difficult times we should become more efficient. Being efficient and making wrong decisions are not the same thing. All right. If you don't have the right character and disposition and policy regarding knowledge, for example, reputation, or any other kind of asset, if you are not living, operating those assets in a manner that is consistent with the overall approach, you're going to have a problem. And you may not know why you're having that problem. And that it goes also for your financials. So what is your disposition towards your assets? Is your asset in alignment with your chosen strategy and approach? A very important question, but that's one of the key drivers to your growth. Okay, we are moving forward. And now we'll talk about your assets. Now, problems arise from how managers, entrepreneurs account for these assets and how they nurture them. I mean, I just talked about it, how you account for them and how you nurture them. Without trying to go into lengthy discussion about them, you see, some of our accounting principles and how we relate to these assets in reporting is also very, very wrong, actually. Okay, because think about it. How do you account for assets? So you install a machinery, and the accounting principle is that you write off the value in what we call depreciation over a number of years. That's correct. That's how we account for that in accounting. That's the principle. Okay. So here's the point. Every year you write out a certain percentage. All right. Now, what happens in times when this asset was not put into use as much as it ought to have been? What happens? How do you account? So you see, our approach to accounting is wrong. You see, because some years those assets might be put into use more than others. So we don't take that into consideration. We just do a straight line method and write off the assets, over the years. Now, what about how we nurture them? How do we manage them? See? Now, this results in being trapped by these assets from evolving with the environment. Now, look at it. When I talk, if I try to take this just a little further, when you invest, say, if you under-invest in assets, you cannot deliver the results you're supposed to deliver. All right? If you over-invest, you also have a problem. But what about when you invest in assets and the environment change and make them obsolete? How do you manage it? So that calls for being a little more strategic with your assets and your relationship with them. Okay? Managers and businesses are trapped by three different things, three different set of assets. Economic assets, for example. They also trapped by financial reporting assets. I just talked about reporting now. And then, most importantly, emotional assets. How's that? Oh, that deals with how you manage the human resources. Actually, a friend of mine suggested that we don't describe human beings as human as resources any longer. He feels that it's a bit myopic and short-sighted, and that perspective widen more when you recognize human beings as partners. If they are partners, they are still important assets in a way. So how do you manage them? Right? How do you manage the informal structure? What is your policy, for example, regarding your informal structure? A certain company understood that the conversations people had when they go for lunch were very meaningful and useful. They discussed certain projects, discussed several issues, all right? So what they did was to find a way to harness these discussions because it made them more innovative. They got very interesting and inspiring ideas from the casual discussions people had over me. So what is your policy around casual discussions in your office? Do you encourage people to discuss freely? People that work with you? You see? That's something you have to take seriously. There has to be a policy. A policy that gives them the freedom. I love the idea with Southwest, where they thought that work should be fun. And you come into the office and find somebody dancing because work should be fun, because they believe that people being too serious shuts down creativity. That has never been true. It's always been true. So where is your policy towards assets? You have to have a policy towards assets. If you don't have a policy towards assets, you have a real big problem. A real big problem. Okay, so we are moving forward. All right now. Okay, now so this just describes what I talked about, your informal assets. So you notice there in this company, Mr. Jones is a senior vice president drilling. All right. And Williams is Mr. Jones senior vice president, but then you have Taylor and Stoic and Williams working under him. Now here's the interesting thing. Now they have a club. And in their club, you find Jones and Williams are in the same club. All right. But you also find Cole in that club. And Cole works under Williams and is actually in the chain of command. Cole is very, very low in the food chain. But see him here, right here, in an informal relationship with Jones and Williams. The implication is that how William relates with Cole, all right, and this informal segment can have a considerable impact on Cole's work life. I don't know if that's very clear to you. So that's why I said you've got to have a policy, some clear policies around relationships and how you manage them. Okay. And let's deal with channels of distribution. However you distribute your value, however you distribute those values. The one thing you want to know is that your distribution channels, you see, they are stores of value. That's how do I bring it back in your mind? How do you look at it? See, it's about perspective, really. Your distribution channel is a store of value. And it can deliver far more value than you might know. The reason you may not know that is because you might just be focused on what the distribution channels say they can do for you. All right. Think about if you have goods and distribute them through Walmart, right? And you could just be focused on the fact that you get this into Walmart. Lots of people can see that, but it can be more. So what do you do then? Okay, the thing to do is to seek a novel or unique approach to distribution. You want to find a way of framing a new value with distribution channel. All right. And totally, you used to use distribution channel in a different way. And lastly, identify the idle capacity. I like to look for idle capacities everywhere I go. And I'm surprised at what capacities exist and people just don't say it. That's why I told you when we discussed philosophy, I said that is your key. Idle capacity, identify idle capacity within your distribution system and use them. Okay. Excuse me. Let's talk about products and services. Products are on their own useless, no matter what it is. Services are useless, except for the value that we store in them. I want to give you a perspective, a strategic perspective of thinking about products and services. Would you imagine that a particular pharmaceutical company, I won't mention the name, actually sees not users of the drugs as their customers, but research institutions as? You will say, why? Well, because products and services are stores of value. That's why. Do you realize that Parker Pen see their pen not as a luxury good or a luxury pen, but rather as a luxury gift, a very fundamental shift in thinking and perspective. Now, that perspective determines who they consider to be their competitor. For example, many years ago, a new Parker Pen CEO made it clear that their competitor was not Scaffer Pen, which was another CEO, another a luxury pen, because he told them, his staff, that their main competitor was the Royston cigarette lighter. Cigarette lighter, yeah, because the cigarette lighter in question was also another luxury gift. People bought it for the purpose of giving a luxury gift. So, what value have you chosen to store in your product or service? The value you've chosen to store in it is what determines who your customer or client will be. But on their own, the product are as good as nothing, but for the value stored in them. I just gave you an example. In the case of Parker Pen, what makes the difference for them, what they are selling, is a luxury gift. It was designed to be a luxury gift, not a writing implement, not a luxury pen. That's a shift in perspective. For you, what's your product for? What value have you stored into it? So the thing is for you to focus on how to remove pains and increase gains through your products. Talking about customer pains, you have three basic things that customers experience as pains. For example, risk. Someone doesn't want to invest in a program or invest in an insurance policy because he doesn't think it might work. He thinks he might lose his money. He thinks he's not going to get enough value. He thinks people are not sincere. That's the risk he doesn't want to take. All right? So some people doesn't want to invest. Customers could have an obstacle. For example, somebody may not have the money to pay. Say this product is nice, I really love it, but man, I can part for £1,000 every week, every month, every year, as the case may be. And problems. Problems are the difficulties people experience that they want to take out of their way. The computer is malfunctioning. It's a problem. It takes too long to open a program. It's a problem. It's a pain. So you create a product to deal with that. All right? At the end of the life cycle of my car, how do I dispose of it? So people created lots of value around that to make sure that the obstacle is removed. Then talk about customer gains, which, as I say, focus on removing pains and increasing gains. What about customer gains? There are 4 of them you can think about. The basic gain, that's basic thing people expect. A phone should be able to make a call. That's the basic, it's expected. A car should be able to drive. A wristwatch should show time. That's basic. But there are also things that people now respect. For example, from the time Apple came up with their iPhone, people became interested. They became interested in having phones look nice. They wanted phones to look nice, to look slick, to look beautiful. That became expected. So if you want to make sure that the phone is looking nice, but that's not all. There are now deserved features. For example, you want to have large memory space. That's desired. But there are also unexpected. So you get a phone. Okay, so one of the reasons in their innovation is that you can actually close the phone. You can fold it and it wouldn't damage the screen. That's totally unexpected. There is nice, people love it. Or the camera can pop up. Oh, that's really unexpected. The people love it. Now, you are trying to increase gains, customer gains. Focus on reducing pains and increasing gains with your products and services. And if you can approach products and services that way, you are functioning very well with that driver of growth. Because that is a very important driver of growth. So we mentioned quite a number of quite a number of drivers of growth. All right. We've talked about your business philosophy, your approach, which is your strategy, your business model, your marketing, your capital or your assets, your relationship, your channels, and your products and services. At this time, I'm going to take a step back, and I will have you ask me. I mean, you realize we've been talking for the past 1 hour and 20 minutes. Okay, but I want to believe you've learned a lot. So I want to ask a couple of questions right now. If you have anything confusing you, otherwise we'll take a short break, 1 minute break, and then we'll do another model. So please, if you have a question, if you want to make a contribution,
How do
go ahead.
how do you measure risk in when you go into market innovation?
Let me get the question a little clearer. I had, how do you measure risk?
Right. How do you determine what level? In other words, when you get into innovation,
Yes.
you could be way out there, so far out there that there not enough people would recognize the merits of the innovation.
Yeah.
And so that would increase your risk significantly of not generating revenues and delivering. So how do you measure that?
All right. So I think I'll look at it this way. All right. So one important statement I always make is that the successful executive begins, he can position his resources with aids. With aids. That means there is a less sense of risk. And he can do that because he begins by occupying territories not contested by others. I'll give an example in history. 2003 .mp3 file format was created. That's technology evolution. I told you, watch technology and market evolution. So when that happens, it becomes easy for people to exchange music files, and people began to do that real good. And the music industry got into a real mess, eventually losing up to 90% of its revenue. So how did the players in the industry did? Well, they went to court because they said that certain platforms were compromising their ability to make money. So they went to court. They said this is piracy. They are sharing they are pirating our products, sharing our music files, and we can't let that happen. They are stealing. So what do you do when someone commits a crime? You go to court. So that's what they did. They went to court. They sued Napster, which was a platform then that was facilitating music file transfer. But at the other end was a gentleman who was not in the music industry. He was in tech. He was in computer business. But he realized he could recognize the market evolution. Now, you know what it means for somebody who is in a totally different industry to venture into a new industry. That's risky, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct? But
yes,
he understood the technology evolution and what the market wanted. Why are people sharing music files? Because there has been a limitation. When you put 10 music tracks on that music CD, I have to buy that CD and take all of the 10 tracks, whether I want them or not. That's a real pain. And then I take that music CD, play back, and I only play one tune. I only play the song from the Spice Girls, and I don't like the other ones. I only like one track. So he thought this was a chance to change it. So Steve Jobs invented the iPod. What were the chances that people were going to buy this iPod? This was risky. The market said so. They were stealing music files because they didn't have an option. It was a voice that the other people didn't hear. They wanted freedom to choose the track they wanted. That's what they wanted. Guess what happened? The first week after the iTunes store came on live, do you know how many music files were sold? 5 million. So two things to answer your question. You need to understand technology evolution and market evolution. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Perfect. Those are your guides. That's your guide. If the market has changed, then you must change. If you don't change, the market will get you out. You also want to hear another story? Then you want to read of the story of Netflix and how they came in on board. The German founder saw a music a video he had rented and forgot to return it. And as he was returning, he was going to pay fees for returning it late. That was the pain. That motivated him to think of a new approach, new model for renting videos, and Netflix was born. Blockbuster laughed them to scorn and said, this idea will never survive. Blockbuster is gone today. Netflix is worth billions of dollars. Risk. You get the point? Risk. In these two cases, they had to take a risk by bringing about a new model. But that's what because they understood technology and market evolution. I believe that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Perfect. So any other questions, Spencer? Do you have a question, or Bill, do you any other question? Otherwise, we'll take a short break.
No, I have no more questions.
Perfect. So we are back in 5 minutes. For now, let's take a break. Hello, are we all here? I guess we can we can quickly run through this older one, drivers of business stagnation. Confirm that you are still with me, Spencer. Confirm that you're here, Bill. Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Spencer, can you hear me? I wonder why Spencer is on. Maybe he's muted and I don't know how else. But we just move on. I believe he's hearing me. Okay, let's rush quickly look at the drivers of business stagnation. Why would a business be stagnated? We just talked about growth. And just as there are drivers of growth, there are also drivers of stagnation. In other words, if you have this character, this attitude, your business is gonna be stuck. And you can blame the environment all you like. You can blame COVID all you like. These are the real reasons why your business could be stuck. So we want to look at it, the drivers of business stagnation. And it goes this way. There are 8 drivers we can identify of stagnation. The first one is you get stuck when you're losing out to competitors. See, when others are outperforming you. You get stuck also when you have low levels of sales. You also get stuck when you have erratic sales value. You also get stuck when you are growing without a strategy. Now, say, is it possible to grow without a strategy? Absolutely, yes. It is possible to grow without a strategy. When the industry is booming and you just get into the industry, you're going to experience growth with the industry. But when the industry becomes lousy, then you have a problem. All right. Actually, Richard Branson said there is only one way of ending up as a billionaire, as a millionaire in the airline industry. And he said it is to start out as a billionaire. Now, what does that say? It shows that the industry actually is lousy. And when you consider all of the experiences of people like Niki Lauda, the former Formula One champion, Vijay Mallya that had the Kingfisher airline, makers of Kingfisher beer in India, and several others, including even Delta Airline, American, and all of that, Virgin Airline, you realize that that industry is quite lousy. But Southwest, Ryanair, Air Philippines, and Air Asia, all of them are still making good profits in the lousy industry because they have a strategy. So if you grow without a strategy, you will be stuck eventually. Also, when your overheads and costs are too high, and when you lack innovation and new approaches, when you neglect best practices and neglect strategic alliances, you will be stuck. So let's get into them and look at them as fast as we can, because I don't want to deal with something else. So you're looking at this iceberg here, and you're looking at the tip of the iceberg, and you're looking at the massive iceberg right into the sea. Why? Because this is what competition actually looks like. Competition is beyond what you see. It's beyond the rivalry. It's beyond those who share the same interest as you do. All right? It's beyond AP Watch and Rolex. All right? It is beyond all of that. It's beyond Toyota and Honda. It's beyond that. What about the suppliers? In the airline industry, for example, the unions have a very powerful position and negotiate loss of profit. For example, there is a given number of hours a pilot can fly. And if that pilot belongs to that union, they must stick to those number of hours. So in the case of Southwest, they make sure that their staff are not unionized. By being non-unionized, they don't keep the union rules. So they were able to manipulate that industry power in their advantage. See, what about buyers? Imagine if you supply to Walmart. Walmart is a powerful buyer. You get the chance of supplying to them and you're going to get this thing sell, but they are also going to have to get it from you at the least possible price. So you can lose money. And you see, when one person loses money, or value, another person must get the value. Value is never really lost. It just transferred. So when the value is not in the industry, like I mentioned to you, that a time was around 2003 when the music industry lost 90% of its value, the value didn't disappear. It got into the hands of other people. Just like, think about it, during the lockdown, several meetings could not hold at, in person, and we had to take lots of these things virtual. Have you read about the 350% surge in the profit of Zoom? Zoom made a lot of profit, 350% profit surge, because value is never lost. It just transferred. This is quite wonderful. All right. So you say, what about the fact that we were in our houses and our offices were empty and we were driving around? So who was getting the value? Well, Netflix was one of them. We watched more movies. Isn't that the truth? Our internet subscription spiked up because we're using more. Okay. And some of us ate more because we were not at home and had more time to eat more food. So you see, value is never lost. Okay. So if you are not getting the value, someone else is getting it. So you get stuck losing to competitors. I believe that's very clear. So the question, that bears the question: who are your competitors? Look, they are inside the sea. Many of them are unseen. All right. You say your suppliers, your buyers, the government, substitutes, informal, and those selling fake products and all of that. They are all part of the competition. Go back, they are part of the competition. And you can be losing to them. Okay, let's move forward. So this describes what I was trying to explain to you. The two arrows there you see represent the rivalry that takes place among competitors who share the same interest. But that's not all. You have suppliers, you have buyers, substitutes, and you have entry barriers. All of those constitute the structure of your industry and defines how you can lose to competitors. So this can cause stagnation when you lose to competitors. Now, losing to competitors, suppliers could out-negotiate you, buyers could take too much value away. Technology and market transformation can lead to loss of value. That's what happened to Kodak. Kodak lost to market and technology transformation. All right? Revenue can drift away to substitute products and services. If the cost of beer gets too high, someone can drink water. If carbonated soft drink gets too high, someone can drink water. So that's it. Now, industrial rivalry taking profit away. So you've got to be a little more we've got to widen your perspective about competition so that you will know your chances of actually losing out to competitors, because that could lead to stagnation. What about low levels of sale? That's something that can happen when you're selling the traditional way. What do you mean selling the traditional way? How does your salespeople think? What do you think about sales? All right. How do they approach the markets? They came to sell stuff. So they come with their brochure and all of that. And then they let people know they have this stuff and they want them to buy it. Is that how they approach the market? If that is how they approach the market, there's going to be a problem. Train your salespeople to approach the market with a different attitude. Train them to come as advisors and trusted consultants who genuinely care about the pains of the people, who want to find out the problems. All right? If they come with that approach, they are more open. You see, it widens their perspective to look beyond closing the sale to more possibilities and opportunities that could arise from that. All right, because your salesperson might have just walked into somebody who will become your next biggest investor. But because he doesn't see sales that way, he is limited to making sure that he get this person to invest the around $20 for the year. And that could be very myopic. So retrain your salespeople to approach the market with a different attitude. And then if you're using mundane advertising methods, you also have a problem. Don't use mundane or outdated advertising methods. Think of innovative ways to sell. I told you, Peter Drucker said there are two duties of the enterprise: innovation and marketing. Advertising is a part of marketing, and you have to find a way to become innovative about your methods. How do you advertise? The models of advertising that already exist are filled with limitations. They are also very competitive and therefore very expensive. When you come up with new ways, you probably know about Mayo Clinic. Now, Mayo Clinic, you can get information about whatsoever kind of drug on that platform. But that's not all they do. You see, that's using advisory approach to marketing, and you can do that too. You can do that. I told you, the best strategies are formless and invisible. Competitors don't know what to defend. If your strategy is so straightforward and so easy for anybody to relate with and understand and know exactly what you're trying to get, then you don't have a strategy. If it is a good strategy, it has to be visible. All right? It has to be formless. Just like Packer Pen. The idea is luxury gift. What the competitor is saying is a luxury pen. So you don't know what to defend against. Now, making offers that are not compelling. You've got to learn to make offers that blows people's socks away. You've got to find a way. And Bill, that's why I like what you are doing with the 6 minutes. Because like I told you already earlier, I said it trains people to learn to condense their presentation, all right? It becomes very succinct, but also very compelling, hypnotic, and extremely powerful, which is what communication should be about. So, but if you have low level of sell because your people don't understand this, that's a problem. And Bill, that's really one area where you also need to really help the world with the 6 minutes. Because salespeople especially need to be trained on how to be succinct and yet comprehensive. So you're passing this information. You don't need to speak for 2 hours to sell a simple truck. Okay, let's move forward to the next driver of stagnation. I want to really rush through this. So growing without a strategy, and the spectrum of strategy, I usually identify three points at the spectrum. The first is strategic blindness, and you have that when people are strategically ignorant or they are in strategic amnesia. Now, strategic ignorance means that they don't know what strategic is. They call it anything they like. They don't know what it is. And then you have strategic amnesia. That means they've gone into amnesia. They once had a strategy. It was working. But it has worked so much that they know it works and they didn't communicate the spirit of that strategy. I did an article, it's called The Spirit of Strategy. Search for it online. That's the only article on the spirit of strategy in the whole world. Search for The Spirit of Strategy, Dr. Brian Rubin. You're going to enjoy it. He's going to enjoy it. All right. So the spirit of strategy has been lost. They are now left with formats and methods. Now, because they're left with formats and methods, when the situation and environment change, they can't change because they don't know why that strategy was framed in the first instance. It's called strategic blindness. Then there is strategic pretension. These people don't have a strategy, but they want to appear like people that have. So they dress up whatever they have and call it strategy. You find that on the table of the CEO. It's labeled the strategy of XYZ company 2021 to 2026. Nobody opens that book. Nobody knows what is in there. You understand that? Okay, and then at the next point in the spectrum, you have what we call strategic denial. And you have those who are in denial of it. They say, we don't need it. And then you have those who are tactically trapped. In other words, they don't have a strategy. They are focused on the ways to meet their short-term goals and the approaches to say, they say this is what is working, but it's not strategic. Then at the next end there of the spectrum, you have strategic incompetence. These ones are incompetent. They know about strategy. They are not denying it, but they are incompetent. They can't execute on strategy. They are aware, but they are uninformed. So they can execute. You've got to be able to execute. You've got to be able to understand market transition and be able to execute against the transition. These ones understand the transition, but they can't execute. Why? A lot of factors. Knowledge, structure comes in the way. And then you have those who are just scrabbling along the way. And there are those who understand strategy. They know that they don't have the capacity. So you know what they do? They outsource it to consultants to manage for them. And there's so much a consultant can do for you. He can get it done for you, but you're going to have to depend on him. And you don't have to depend on a consultant. And then there are those who are mindlessly committed as fun. They love strategy. They believe in strategy, right? They are committed. In other words, they invest money and resources in developing strategy, but they have no clarity about what they want to do. Why do you need this strategy? Why do you have to be a low cost instead of premium? They don't know. You've got to read the spirit of strategy to help you get a little more on that. Okay, what about high overheads and cost? So the real question here is, what's your attitude towards cost? What is your attitude towards cost? Do you measure everything? Everything should be measured. Now, when I say what's your attitude towards cost, everybody knows that those components you need to make your product cost $200 to bring it in. But are you so concerned about cost, you are consistently looking for new ways, new approaches to keep your cost low? Or have you settled for what you think is available? Are you constantly, consistently, and persistently searching for how to keep your cost low? Every successful entrepreneur, every successful company anywhere has this attitude towards cost. Do you measure everything? Everything should be measured in terms of investment or profit rather than just expensive. What does that mean? You don't keep away from spending on a particular project because it's expensive. The thought is it bringing a profit or is it an investment? You cannot say we can afford to spend on training and development of our staff this year because it's been a difficult year. The question is, will the training help them move the company forward? And what will be the cost of not training them? Will it rather force you to fail even faster? So you need to look at things from the perspective of, is it an investment or is it profitable? Not just how much is it? No. Do you maximize your assets? For example, you can trade what you have for what you need. Barter never ended, it still exists. You might be focused on getting somebody subscribed for $37 on your magazine, and you lose the chance of having a consultant look into your business and give you a smarter, faster way of achieving geometric growth. You could lose that because you are so much focused on $47, and that can be a problem. So do you maximize your assets? How much do you know of the people in your world? Do you do a background check of your relationships to find out what more you can do with them? How? What efforts do you commit to maximizing the things you have? Many times you have far more than you can imagine. And you need to look at what your assets can deliver to you, because many times what you will discover will stun you. It will shock you. It will shock all of you. Are you following this? Are you all with me?
Yes, I am. I do need to jump off in a couple of minutes. I had this on my calendar for 2 hours, and I have another appointment coming up in 15
Yes.
minutes.
Okay, so the other thing is lack of innovation and new approaches. So you have 4 basic type of innovation: operation, management, products and services, and business model. These are all, you've got to take innovation very seriously. And then you have neglecting best practices. That means the industry moves forward with technology and you ain't using those technology. They move forward with new thinking, new approaches, and you don't know about them. You need to respond to competitors in some ways. And a strategy not pursued up to 3 years is no strategy. So you've got to take best practices seriously. And what about neglecting strategic alliances? Strategic alliances are sustainable relationships that support your vision. All right. And there are 2 ways to advance your interest in any industry, in any place in the world. Two approaches. That's cooperation or conquest. You are either going to cooperate, because in every industry, there are key parts of that industry. There are market leaders, and you want to get into that industry. A simple endorsement can be all you need to get people's attention. So you need to find ways to advance your interest. To get your interest advanced, you are either going to have to take out other players, or you find a way to cooperate with them. And now I can spend a little more time talking about this, but we need to rush this. Now, a strategic alliance value is determined by its implication on your direction. That is your direction. This current situation with your short. You don't. What I mean is that you don't use short-term perspective for long-term decisions. Very important. And then this is where these are the key drivers of stagnation. If this is your approach to competition, you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have a real problem. So Bill, you're supposed to run off and deal with another meeting about now. I understand. These models are not over yet. So tomorrow we deal with about 3 other models. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm.
Spencer, I don't know if you can still hear me. You are still here, but you are really not responding. I don't know what the problem is. Hope it's not your network. But we are going to end it here, and tomorrow we'll deal with a number of other subjects on this, and hopefully
Great.
it's been enlightening. Hopefully you've learned, and you're going to have to apply what you have learned. Is there any question before we end the session for today?
No, I have no questions.
I'm glad. All right, Bill. Spencer, thank you for being in the class today. Tomorrow we will do it again. And until that happens, I want to thank you and ask you to enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you, Brian. Bye-bye.
Okay, Spencer, thanks.